Hello, everybody. I'm going to be reacting to your assumptions about me because I feel like that fits my brand, maybe. I don't know. I guess we're about to go. Hold on. I'm going to share this link. Say hello if you, um, because why not? I asked a few people this question already, and so I'm going to be like reacting to that at some point. Hold on just a moment. Yeah, I already asked this question like a few weeks ago because I thought I'd do it that day, but I didn't because I never had time. Hi guys. So I guess before I even go into this, I just want to say I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers do this sort of reacting to your assumptions about me thing, and I feel like it's like I can see through so many of them. Hey, Lindsay. Hey, Jess. Hey, Julio. Hey, Matthias. Hey, Roosevelt. But anyway, every time I see YouTubers do this thing of like reacting to your assumptions about me, I almost wonder if they're ENFJs or ESFJs because, well, maybe whoever came up with that trend was like an FE user or something because I feel like the need to respond to all of those things it seems very defensive, doesn't it? And I know that I'm the sort of person that almost like feels the need to respond. Like, tell me, you guys in the comments, like, do you think that this sort of reacting to my assumptions about me, do you think that's fun? Do you think that's quirky? Do you think that's interesting? Or do you think that that's just like attention seeking, annoying? Because I can sort of see both sides of that, but I figured since it was a trend, might as well just go ahead and do it, right? Because I already am suppressing this sort of reacting to your assumptions about me vibe every single time like people say things. So, yeah. So first I'm going to start with some things I got on Twitter whenever I tweeted this out. This is the best one I got actually. So I'm really starting this with a bang. A Melon Baby on Twitter said, "I assume that most people will not voice their assumptions about you." I love that because, yeah, I feel like that makes sense. And then A Melon Baby also said, "I assume you're never truly satisfied and you're always striving for better." That is very, very true. Holy crap. Like, if you are one of those people that is always striving to the next thing, and you are always goal setting, like that's amazing. Like really, like it's great to maximize your potential, but like you're never going to be happy if you can't learn to be okay with where you are now. And I know that that sounds like really cliche, but it's really hard to actually apply that to your real life. Like you might think that you get that, but it's actually hard to do. Magpie Diviner on Twitter says, "I assume that you're very self-critical and hold others to the same standard as yourself, and that you're quite a protective friend, but sometimes you forget to protect yourself." This girl's also spot on. In fact, I think both of these people are INTJs. I can't remember if A Melon Baby is an INFJ or an INTJ, but anyway, both you guys, your NI just completely pierced through me with that comment. Like completely pierced through with that one. And yeah, if you just got on, you can feel free to add whatever assumptions you want now. I'm just sort of going through the ones that I already am. Okay, so now I'm going to my Facebook group, which if you aren't on my Facebook group, There's a link below in almost every single one of my videos. I don't think it's on this one yet. Yeah, Dan said you'd avoid the whole people's assumptions about me like the plague thing. I feel like these sorts of things, and I don't know if this is like an FE and not an FI thing, but these sorts of things don't offend me personally in the way it might like hurt an FI user like emotionally, but it does bother me. It bothers me a lot. Like I feel like it's so intellectually lazy and stupid and harmful for society when people just make assumptions about other people and then call that a day. Like, it can cause conflict, it can cause, like, a problem for you and for the other person. It just doesn't make any sense. It can cause miscommunications. I just think it's lazy and stupid and annoying and just I mean, dumb and harmful to make assumptions about other people, especially if you're sort of writing them off in your head, you know what I mean? Um, Jess says, "Oh, I want to know all the ways ENFJs neglect to protect themselves." Yeah, I would say the way I talk to myself in my head, my internal dialogue, I'd like to think that I'm untouchable and, you know, I know my mindset is like staying stagnant is a risk, you know? I can't stay stagnant. I need to keep moving. I need to improve myself and all that. And so, and I know this is like a polar, like blind spot, SI thing sort of, but for me, it's like being comfortable is scary to me because if comfortable, then that means I'm wasting time. That means that I'm not, you know, like, what if I run out of time? What if, someone else takes the opportunity? You know, I don't know. I just would rather focus on protecting other people, I guess. And I don't really know the answer to that. Maybe because I'm afraid of what I might find. I don't know. Like, I've been getting better at protecting them myself because I'm starting to realize that my energy levels and the amount of time that I put on myself can really influence everything. Like if I if I don't get enough sleep, then maybe I won't be as productive, and then maybe I won't be as good of a friend, or maybe I'll be a little grumpy. Like I'm starting to like connect the dots that like maybe it's better to take care of myself. But okay, so I've now conceptually understood that I should take care of myself, but that doesn't mean that I know how to do it. So for most of my life, like up until like late college, I just assumed that that was a waste of time. I would be kind of like sleep is for the weak. Like I don't need to clean my room. Like I don't need alone time. Like I don't need any of that. I can just go, go, go. Like people need me. Like I have things to do. Like, oh, well, this sounds more fun. Like, why does it really matter if my bed is unmade? Like things like that. Yeah. So anyway, in my Facebook group, these are some of the comments I got. Wendy says, I assume you like tapestries because of the background you use in your videos. I know it's not actually a tapestry, but it reminds me of a medieval tapestry. I always wondered if the background has any significance to you. So I think it is a tapestry. I don't really know. But I remember I got this one. Let's see. I think I got this tapestry my sophomore year of college. And, I think I can't remember if I got it online. Whether I got it online or at the store, I think that I was inspired by the idea of tapestries at this one store that was called the Peace Nook that I went to in college. And I don't really know what it symbolizes to me, but I think in college, I started to connect with more people that had um, more esoteric beliefs, more interests in like astrology and personality, and like, some of the things I talk about on here, like new age stuff and like tarot and like things like that, like pretty mystical, pretty like hippie, I guess you could say. In this store that I actually used to work at some point, like was sort of my first introduction as a college student to things like um all these sort of it was like it only sold like self-help books, new age books, politics, sociology, psychology, and like um counterculture sort of fiction books. It was very, you know, it's very NF sort of vibe. They like sold like crystals, they sold like organic food and like kombucha. It was my first experience with kombucha, this sort of vibe. They also sold tapestries. They sold these really cute handmade journals. Whenever I would go in there, I, you know, and this isn't something I've realized before. I'm just like trying really hard to think about what my association is with it. So, perhaps an SI user would be more aware of something like this. I don't know. But like for me, I guess I felt like I belonged. I guess I felt like maybe these people were more my people. I don't really know. But I just liked the look of it and I've had it since then. So I feel like the colors kind of match my vibe. I don't really know. I just like you know, it's nice to have a backdrop for things. Um Ben Harper, aka Queen Tiger, says, I gotta be honest with them. I gotta be honest with this one. I assume that you are offended quite easily. So, Crystal and I actually talked about this in a video. Offended. I'm gonna actually look up the definition of offended because I would say yes and no to that one. So, offended means resentful or annoyed, typically as a result of a perceived insult. So I am a feeler. I am an ENFJ. I do find things, I am quick to judge something as, harmful or something. I'm quick to say, oh, that was disrespectful, that was harmful. And I get annoyed when people are disrespectful and harmful. I do. I would not say I'm quick to taking things personally, if that's what you mean. I understand that it can look like I'm that way. But something that Crystal and I one time talked about in a video, I'm not sure which one. I think it was the Synchronic Saturdays or podcast I do with Crystal, my ENFP friend. But it was the discussion of, am I open for criticism or am I open to criticism? And she was explaining to me that a lot of people's connotations that they have with the word criticism is the idea that criticism is sort of negative or scrutinizing you in like a negative way. And I really have no patience for disrespect. Like if you're disrespecting me, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to tell you to stop, or I'm going to like walk away from you. I'm going to say, I disagree with you. I don't like this, whatever. But to me, that's just so natural to me as an FE Dom that it might look like I'm freaking out or that I'm offended or that I was triggered, when to me, I'm just responding with FE. I'm just saying, I think that causes harm. I don't really like that. I don't really want to deal with that. So I'm very sensitive to slight changes in moods and very sensitive to the way that people say something and where I feel like they're coming from. But if you were to disagree with me and just say like in a kind way, and I mean, I don't need my ego to be validated. I don't need my emotions to be validated, and I don't want pity. You can just say like, hey, like, there's a difference between saying like, oh, this is a crock of shit, and saying, I think that this statement you said is wrong, and here's why. Like, call me wrong. Like, let's talk about it. Like, I want to talk with people who disagree with me, and I get that. But like, what I am sensitive to is like when people are spewing their negative emotions on me and aren't conscious of the way that they're affecting me. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to look at some of the comments now. Okay, Jess says a lot of people don't know how to actually give criticism. Amen. Like, I want criticism. And if you think that being like, I mean, like when I've gotten comments being like, oh, you're ugly, oh, you're stupid, oh, you're a masochist, like, oh, like you blah blah blah. Like I don't even know, like where you can just tell that it's this person like trying to get a rise out of you or like whatever. Like I don't put up with that. Hmm. I'm looking. Okay. Hopefully that answered the question. Yeah, LJ says trolls. Yeah. I mean, I'm very sensitive or easily offended to by trolls. Not personally offended. I'll just like want to take action to remove it from the environment. So, yeah. Okay. Daniela says you were raised by a two-parent household. LOL. You come off very grounded and determined. Good for you, girl. Count the blessings. Now, you are right. And I'm very thankful for my parents. And something that I've been realizing and growing in my gratefulness for as I've gotten older is the fact that not only do I have supportive parents, but my dad is an ENFJ. And so we're very similar in certain regards. And to have, I mean, my mom's an ESFJ, and she and my dad both sort of have the philosophy of that they want me to be happy and they want me to be and do whatever I want. But from a young age, I always had supportive parents and, and encouraging ENFJ dad always telling me that I can do whatever I set my mind to and that passion and perseverance can get you anything that you want in this life as long as you truly want it. And I think that's the key. I mean, it could sound a little bit naive. I don't think that anyone can just get anything that they want in life. Well, one, without effort, but also the other aspect is that you have to actually want it. Like, are you actually aligned with that goal? Is it really you? Like, is it honoring your strengths or is it not? And I don't really think that I think that it's hard to be perseverant and consistently passionate in something that that your heart's not all the way in. So I am very lucky in that regard. So okay, so boss, when you say I can understand not liking that someone hurts your feelings with criticism, but it doesn't change if it's true or not. I don't know why you'd want to. Well, see, this is actually really interesting. I don't know why you'd want to run away from a chance of improving yourself. And no, that didn't come off as insulting. To me, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just an FE judgment of that is a nasty, unnecessary emotion. And whenever I see that someone is being unnecessarily cruel, I immediately assume that they're biased and being emotional and illogical. And so it's harder for me to accept that point. I accept points from people who are calm and, coming from a good place. And I think that a lot of thinkers can kind of use this as an excuse, like, oh, it's the truth. But I've had great friends and mentors and colleagues, people who were thinkers, who were not cruel. So it's definitely possible to not be cruel. And I think that I'm really trying to distinguish here And you can see in any of my comments that there's been people that disagree with me in a way that is just very honest and not cruel, and I always react well to them. It's the people that seem like they have a bone to pick for some reason that I don't like. And I hope I can explain that I'm it's not that I'm afraid of the truth at all. It's in fact that I have a hard time even feeling like what they're saying could be even true if they are so um, hell bent on being mad, like why? Like Puko, you say agree, literally annoying. Yes, like I don't really take that as true. I feel like, man, you're really repressing your emotions and projecting on me for some reason. So yeah. That's really sort of the main problems that I've gotten into with people is when I feel like people are so detached from their emotions that they have no idea what emotion they are even presenting. I really liked this one. Willie says, I assume that negativity gets you down immediately, but that you also get up quick. Man, this is so true. And I really needed to hear this, honestly, because I definitely know the first part that negativity gets me down, but I do get up quick. And you know what? Yesterday, I was a total baby because I had to take my friend to the airport at like 5:30 in the morning. And I was crying the entire way to work. Like, it was like an hour drive, but it was so early and like I wasn't used to going that way, and like I was scared of getting in a wreck, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? I'm so tired." Blah. Like I was such a baby. And something with me that I literally need to write down or get tattooed on me or something is like 9 times out of 10 whenever I feel like my world is over, I'm probably just tired, okay? I'm probably just tired. And that really should be the first thing that my mind goes to, but it's always the last. But anyway, I spent like that day, or I spent like a while just feeling sorry for myself. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm such a bad bitch. I got this. Like, then I was like, fine. Like, I don't even know what changed. But that happens all the time. And almost every single time when I am emotional, I want to ride the wave because I know it'll be over soon, and I want to just sort of give it attention so that it can do its thing, so then it'll be gone. So, yeah. Okay. So, Joseph said something that honestly was probably one of my favorite comments I've ever received in my life because I felt so seen. So Joseph, if you're watching this, like honestly, thank you. I actually kind of teared up or considered tearing up about this. Is he said, "You know what you want and you're willing to put up a debate on anyone who thinks that you don't know what you want. Then you will try to understand why they think that anyway." Um, Third, the conclusion. You draw the line, tell them who you are and why. Lastly, you wait for their response to calculate their intelligence in hopes that they respect you, because after all, you respect others and believe everyone deserves a chance. That is so fucking true. And I'm glad that you see that in me if I'm disagreeing with someone or whatever, because um even when I disagree with someone, I want to know why they think that way. But what my number one pet peeve is when people use you statements and they say, you do this, or you think this. That is going to make me argue back because I know me better than you know me, especially a stranger on the internet. And so I'm always going to be like, actually, no, my stance is this. And then if they react back, then I'm starting to learn that means I literally need to just not talk to them because you aren't even being curious. Like, are we having a discussion or are you just trying to be right? Because if you were curious, then if you had a statement about me and then I said, "Oh, actually, my stance is this," then you would be curious. Then you would be like, "Oh, I was wrong about you," and then we'd have a discussion and then learn about each other, and then it would be amazing because then we would understand each other's functions and just like love each other and all that. It would just be amazing. But whenever I think that I come off as defensive when I do that, but I also don't understand why somebody who doesn't know me thinks that they know like my principles. I think I mentioned this in a video once, but there was this guy actually whenever I was working at a coffee shop that apparently watched my videos, which it was kind of strange to get recognized by someone at a coffee shop who watched my videos, especially when I don't have, that many subscribers. But he was like, "Oh, I watched one video of you and you mentioned something about social justice. And so I'm assuming that you have this philosophical stance on life or something." And I can't remember the philosophical stance, but he was saying pretty much that he thinks that I'm the sort of person that is very focused on the outcome and doesn't care about the principles. And like, even if someone breaks one of your principles, if it's going to create, if it's going to get the job done anyway, it doesn't matter if they break the principle. And he was like giving me a few political examples, and whatever it was, it just felt all wrong to me. It just wasn't me. And I had to explain to him that although I personally, I do lean liberal, I am like into social justice issues. I had to explain to him that actually I do see flaws in my own like side, and that I'm not, super just tribal, gonna believe what the news says I should believe or whatever groups of people say I should believe. I am very much like the sort of person where even though I supported Obama, if Obama did something, it's like I'm not going to criticize Trump for doing something if Obama did the same thing, or like I'm going to want to criticize both people because I think that's fair, and I just only criticize the people I'm against or whatever, and not criticize the people that I'm for. And he was pretty much trying to explain to me that I was the sort of person that would not do that, and that would change my principles to fit my cause. And I don't know, I was really offended by that because he didn't even know me, but he saw a few things from my video and thought he knew me more than I knew me. So whenever people do that, I do get defensive and I correct them. And I can pretty much tell their character right away based on how curious they are about actually getting to know me. So one more comment on my Facebook, and then I'm going to go to what some of you guys put on my Facebook or my YouTube community tab. Aaron says, "I assume that you're interested in a wide-reaching social strategy concepts, uses precise speech, and looks for specific word choices others use. I think that you probably have the ENJ concept, which is decision execution function superhighway. I'm not really quite familiar with what that term means." And then he said, "I'm practicing making those quick decisions because I envy what I've seen." Well, I guess I would say that I do enjoy social strategy. I would say I'm sure my speech, I don't know about it being precise. Wouldn't say it's imprecise. Um, I do pick my words for a reason, and I often will say things like, "I said what I said," or "I stand by what I said," but I don't think much about the word choice before I start talking. I more so get into the mindset of what do I feel needs to be said? What am I feeling right now? What is my opinion? Just really like zoning in on that and then just expressing. Like for me, the communication is I'm envisioning all of you guys, on one end, and then me right here. I'm thinking about what all you know as a collective and what I know or what I'm feeling or thinking about me. And then I'm thinking, how do I transfer this information from here to here? And then it just goes like blah, 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 blah. I don't think about a formed sentence in my brain before I talk. So, all right, I'm going to catch up to some of these comments. Yeah, LJ says people speaking in absolutes about other people's identity functions is kind of rude. I agree. I think it is rude. Oh, yeah, Jess says you look up definitions of words to make sure you understand them like I do. Yes, it's very true. And I think that whenever I look up the definition, it's because I want to make sure that I am not just using my definition and not other people's definition. Because sometimes I feel like people attach weird connotations to words that just aren't supposed to be there. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Um, where like, I don't know. It's interesting to me because words, like a lot of people think about the dictionary as being like the end all be all of communication, right? Um, well, humans were talking before there was a dictionary. So humans create language just from talking. And then, I mean, there are new words added to the dictionary like every year because we made them up. And so I think that that's very important to realize that, yeah, the dictionary's definition of a word is important, but how people use the word is arguably even more important. And so I really focus on how people use the word. Um, but I know that some people, you know, don't do that, or people might be coming from a different place. You know, words are weird because we all have different experiences with the word. Um, I mean, some people, you know, someone's a reader when they will like say a word wrong and it's like a fancy word and they'll say it wrong because they've only ever read the word, you know. There's a lot of words like that that I don't think I've ever said out loud, but only like I've only read it. And then there are a few words where what's interesting to me is being from the Midwest and then going to college with a lot of people from the coasts and from the South. There are a lot of words that I don't know what the correct way of saying it is anymore because I've heard it so many different ways. Like the word niche and niche. I like used to always say niche, and then now all my friends say niche, and I don't want to be the only weird one saying niche. And so it's like, I don't even know, man. So, yeah, Mary says no two people have ever had the same definition for the same word. Exactly. And so that's hard. That's like hard to communicate. So anyway, I'm going, if anyone has any assumptions, feel free to uh put them on there. I'm about to go see what my YouTube community tab has said. Okay, Michelle Wilson, shout out to Michelle, says, my assumption is that you get very upset when people don't follow through with promises, like to the point where you may never trust them again. You know, that is a pretty decent assumption, and I will tell you that you're not wrong, and I see why you see that. But I would say I think as an Enneagram 2 as well, if there's any of you here interested in Enneagram, like if someone breaks a promise, I will like trust will be like destroyed, but I'm always willing and trying to grow that trust back. And I'm always looking for little like scraps or like signs that perhaps they want to go on that journey of um trusting each other again, you know. And I'm always willing. I am always willing to try and regain trust once it's been broken because I just see it as I mean, a foundation. Like, just as like, okay, I mean, you got to make sure you're investing yourself accordingly, but like, if you were to build a building and then it falls down, it's not that you can never rebuild it. You just start building again. I mean, that's how kind of I view trust is like trust is broke. If trust is broken and falls down, you can just start over. But as opposed to starting from a flat surface, you're starting from a bunch of crumbled old buildings everywhere. So you're going to have to take each piece of the broken trust and get rid of it and then start over. So that creates an obstacle. But if you think the investment is worth it, think of it if it was a building. Is it prime real estate? Is it a good location? You know, like there are other reasons why if a building fell over, why you would want to rebuild it despite all of the old building and, you know, it might be worth it. But I am starting to get better at if I can tell that the person's not interested in rebuilding trust and doing what it takes, trying to learn to just leave them be. And another thing on that, Michelle, I am becoming the person that has a hard time following through with promises. And I really don't like that. And it's been giving me a little bit more empathy for people that have always struggled with that. I don't think that I necessarily, I mean, I'm still like a reliable person. I don't like bail on something where someone's like really expecting me. But I do like cancel plans because I'm tired a lot, you know, because I don't sleep enough. Or like, I don't know, it's just harder to do things these days. I don't know why that is. Yeah, Princess says, my assumption is that you don't like when people act like someone they're not to get attention. Yes, that is very true. I don't like that at all. And I guess I don't understand it because I feel like it's okay to want attention because we all need it and you can get it um through authentic ways. You know, I mean, I've been called like an attention seeker before and like I don't think that there's anything wrong with wanting to be seen for who you are. But I think that the people that do try and get attention for someone they're not, it's going to feel like a quick fix. It's going to not really not really do anything for them. They're going to end up being the ones that are hurt from it at the end of the day. You know, it's not really hurting anyone else besides themselves. Although other people, you know, if they buy into it and think that they need to do that and then start to compare themselves, then that could be harmful. Um, Star Stuff says, this might be heterosexual bias, but I assumed the video with your girlfriend meant a video with the girl who was your friend until I watched it. I gotcha. I get that a lot. So for those of you who don't know, I made a video about being bisexual that you can all watch, but I actually did not even, I mean, I identified as straight until 2016, and I had my first crush on a girl. And I feel like if, you know, if being bi or queer at all was not as acceptable or talked about, I don't know if I even would have recognized that I had a crush, you know? Because, and then I just started to think about once I realized that I was bi, I started to think about all of the guys that that I tried to date because it seemed like we had a lot in common and they like seem like we would be a good match versus like my heart actually pulling me toward them. And I thought about it was interesting because I was like, man, I've liked so many guys, and this is the first girl I've liked. I used to think, man, I must be like really mostly straight. Like this must be a fluke. Then when I really looked into it, I was like, man, I've dated so many guys, but I've only really had feelings for two or three, you know? And like imagine not having the social pressure to compel you to feel like you need to have a boyfriend for like you know, for to get your intimacy, and all of that. And for, everyone wants a partner. Everyone wants, you know, to be loved or, feeling like all of that pressure and, on one end, but not on the other end. And then I've thought like, man, I wonder if the roles were reversed and I had social pressure to liking women instead of social pressure to liking men, how many girls I would have considered because it made sense that I didn't actually have feelings for. And so in my experience, my attraction to girls has been very pure in the sense that if I'm not actually attracted to them, if I'm not like meant to be with them, I'm probably not going to even consider them as a sexual object because there's never been any pressure. I've never really viewed them as a sexual object. I'm very much the sort of person where it's the soul and it's who I love that matters most. But I mean, the thing that sucks about being a feminine, female identifying bisexual is that I have to come out pretty much all the time because everyone assumes I'm straight. I mean, luckily, I'm coming to terms with it more and I'm coming out more and more. And also, I've been in a relationship with my wonderful girlfriend for almost a year now, which is crazy to me. And it's kind of crazy to me to think that this is going to be like the longest relationship I've ever been in coming up soon. I mean, no plans on breaking up. Like, we haven't even really had any fights. And, it's crazy to me that for so much of my life I've identified as straight, and now it's about to be true that my longest relationship has been with a girl, and I likely might never go back to dating men, which is just strange. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. Everyone assumes that I'm straight, and that's just sort of how it is. I think that a lot more people are bisexual and just don't know because of social conditioning. And, a lot of us are chasing what makes sense. And I'm not saying that you're bi, like, I'm not here to, like, push the gay agenda on you or anything like that. But I do think that maybe this can help you think about, like, really trying to just go for the people that you're drawn for or that you're drawn to. Like, even if you're straight as hell, you still, like, certain people, you might feel like, oh, this makes sense. I should try for them. When really there's nothing there. There's no chemistry. There's nothing. It's not your person. You just got to really, like, tune in and see, and you'll know who you're drawn to. And this sort of, you can't just play like the logical reasoning game with that, like trying to decide who you're into. So anyway, moving on. Boltsy says, my assumption is that everything negative gets you down instantly, but also you get up quickly. That's interesting because somebody else just said that, unless it was the same person. And this person says, you deleted, I assume, the latest narcissist thread from the Facebook group. Did that violate the rules or was that too negative for you? I assumed negative. I wrote a long comment. It got deleted quickly. No hard feelings. I do not even remember seeing that, so I apologize. We do have rules in the Facebook group, and there are a group of moderators. If your comment was deleted, one of the rules should have been selected and you should have gotten a message about it. So I don't know. I know that Facebook has been glitching a lot, so I mean, I try and let people know if they broke a rule. So I'm not the sort of person to just delete a negative thing and then not say anything about it in my Facebook group. So Omar says, "You love being dominated in any room you are. You hate being secondary." I don't hate being secondary. I just if I need the dominant person to be competent, and if they aren't competent, then I'm gonna step up. Yeah. I don't mind being secondary. I'm not competitive. I am my competition is very inward of like self-mastery. I don't really care what other people do as long as they aren't stunting my growth and telling me what to do and getting in my way. If that makes sense. Omar also said, "You love successful people who are also kind and honest, and you thrive to be one." That is very true. And I'm starting to realize in my life that, finding people that are in the same stage of life as me and working on similar things is extremely, extremely important to me. And I love that. And I think that, that's one of the reasons why I love the internet is it's easier to find people like that. Omar also says, "You've had many friends but never felt truly connected until later on in life." You know what, Omar? That is very true. And, I'm hoping that later on in life that it's going to get better. Um, I guess by that logic, I would say I feel truly connected now, although it's weird because I feel like all of my best friends don't live in this town. Well, I have one best friend in this town. Well, I mean, I have a lot of good friends where I am, but I mean, I really would like to have an in-person community as much as I have an online community, or at least organize the online community better to where it feels more real. It doesn't just feel like loosely connected. Um, I always felt very alienated as a kid. I never felt like I fit in and all that. I did have friends, but I was, you know, more of a chameleon trying to bring out the parts of me that would connect best with other parts of people. Um, yeah. Synthethesis says, "I would assume that you truly care about everyone." Yes, I would say that that's true. Um, I would say I truly, truly, truly care for everyone, but I really do not like everyone. I just want to make that clear. I'm not trying to like brag and say like, "Oh, I'm so loving and blah 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 blah," like every ENFJ does. I really do care and love everyone, even people who are cruel to me or I find weak or stupid in some way. I really do care for them, and I trust the process that they are going to discover, themselves through different experiences and all of that, and that it's not my place to really send anything other than love because love is a transformative power. And I want that for them. I want them to evolve and grow to the way that they want to be. Um, but that doesn't mean that I have to like everyone, and I don't like everyone. There are quite a few people that I dislike, and but I don't hate anyone, and I don't want to spend any energy on that. Um, I've been known to spend more energy on that than I should whenever I don't know how to get them to leave me alone and set my boundaries. But yeah, I really just want the best for everyone, and sometimes the best thing for people is to get far away from me. you know. um Hold on. I'm going to look at some of your comments. Yeah, Jess said earlier, do you avoid spending time or talking to people if you think you don't have enough energy for the interaction to be high quality? Yes, absolutely. And I always feel like it's my responsibility to lead the conversation and to really be present and to initiate. And I don't know, maybe I don't need to be like that because especially friends, they aren't like that, and, I still feel like they're very valuable to be around, but for some reason, I always feel like I have to just be the most. Mm, I like how Mike says straight as hell is a scientific term. So, Malandrick said, "I assume you'd want others to take the initiative." I don't know if that was when I was discussing, romantic partners at the time, but in general, I take the initiative, and I never really expect others to because, I feel like, why would they? Because I suck, because I'm unlovable, because I'm a type 2, and type 2s think that we're unlovable, and so that's why I initiate and help. Um, I'm not saying, like, my self-confidence isn't that low, but that is, like, sort of the subconscious fear that type 2s have, so that's what I'm saying. Um, okay. So Stephanie Douglas says, I assume that you work in a field that requires a deep understanding of people. That is true. So, really, my degree's in journalism. And so, for those of you who don't know, I worked as a journalist for a while. And I really enjoyed interviewing people and I enjoyed telling their stories. My favorites were like the sorts of feature stories. And now I'm doing social media management for a spiritual movement company that I really vibe with. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, marketing in general does require a deep understanding of people. I would like to get more into like I mean, I'm doing it now, like psychology sort of content creation, but I want to get more into that and offer more services and consulting and coaching. So yeah, I definitely would say that's accurate. Lifeful Life says, I assume that although you're an FE Dom, you're more logical than most feeling types, and people often think that you're a thinking type. Okay, I've gotten this before. And I just want to mention something about that. That might be true, but I want you guys to think about what an ENFJ is, and I want you to really just consider an ENFJ in their prime, like in their zone. Like, let's say there are so many creative people who are ENFJs, and when they get in their zone, when they are in their zone where they have spent so many years thinking about something, observing something, mulling it over, thinking about the options, they're going to speak up when it's time. Like, I don't know, whenever I was thinking about this, I was thinking like someone who's like, you know, on the board at Juilliard or something. Like, I'm sure there's some ENFJ involved in like really high up, like at Juilliard musical theater, or like perhaps an ENFJ agent that like works with in the entertainment field in LA or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking think of like Oprah or something. Like when they know what they are talking about and they have considered every option and thought about how people are going to respond and then they deliver, we know what we're talking about. And I don't know if people realize that, like, personality typology is my zone, and perhaps it's not everybody's zone, and that is okay. A lot of ENFJs that I've known or that I've seen in typology just find it fun, and it's not their zone. But if you went to their zone, you would see them sharing their opinions because that's what we do um, when when we feel comfortable and when we feel like we trust our ideas. And I mean, I've thought about this stuff for like 5 years before I even got the courage to say anything. And so I think that whenever people have accused me of being a thinking type, they don't really realize like how much work has gone in behind the scenes, and they don't really realize that this outlet is a place for me to share my thoughts because it's something that I find really interesting, and that it is a place like for me to get comfortable with my TI. So I will say though to that point that I've always tested like not to I mean, I've always gotten good grades and I've always tested with like a high like IQ and stuff like that. I've always been smarter than average in standardized tests. And I guess I also just want to say that being smart or brilliant um, doesn't necessarily mean that you're using logic, doesn't necessarily mean that you are like a thinker. So, and I'm not even trying to be like, oh, I'm so smart or anything like that. I just am trying to say, like, yeah, the facts are I've always been like smart, but like, yeah, I mean, I've thank you. I mean, also thanks for noticing too. I mean, that I have worked on I'm trying to work on my TI, but I don't know. The reason I started with that is because I feel like there are a lot of brilliant ENFJs out there that just might not be in the type community. They might be using that brilliance in other areas. So, yeah. Okay. Um so this person says, I assume that when you stutter, you feel a lot of pressure to articulate yourself so that no one discredits the point you're making. You're half right. I feel a lot of pressure to articulate myself, and that's why I stutter, but it's not about being discredited at all. It's about making sure that my opinion is getting through accurately and that people understand where I'm coming from. I don't really care about being discredited. And then they also said, I assume that you might underestimate how promising too many good things associating with astrology or offering products can invalidate your opinions. Well, I understand that that might look naive, but I am a positive, optimistic person, and I've seen these things work for me, even though I'm extremely skeptical. And so you're allowed to be skeptical, but I'm not going to change. I'm not going to like make the world seem like a worse place when this optimism has worked for me, and I've seen it work for me, and so that's why I talk about it. But I understand that people have a hard time like seeing the world as good sometimes because there's a lot of shitty stuff out there. I assume that you feel very strongly about your opinions, but you have problems explaining it to people that disagree, and it's frustrating to you. I talked about this a little bit earlier. Whenever I was explaining that, it's frustrating to me when people think that they know more about me than they actually do, and when they're coming at me with an unnecessarily cruel point of view. I don't really mind disagreeing. I mind like the emotions that come with it. Um, they said, I assume that you might use the troll card early. Well, early is subjective. I am an extroverting feeling dominant, and I notice these slight changes in emotions, as I said before. Um, I have a high standard for how people should treat each other, and perhaps your standard is different. 5, I assume it might lead you to not try and understand other points of views. This is completely false because all I do every day is try and consider other points of view to a fault. to a fault where I have a hard time even really trusting myself because the moment that somebody comes in with a different point of view, I assume I need to think about. I take everything that I see with a grain of salt, no matter how stupid it sounds. I don't discredit like really anything. How much I disagree. I feel like I at least need to figure out why they got to that conclusion, so I can see if there was any truth or anything that they were hanging on to that I can at least use. So, 6, I assume it's worth to hear you out because you seem to have good points. Okay, thank you. 7, I assume you didn't read my reply to Michelle's comment on FETE making things self-evident to the user. No, I did not see that comment, and I apologize for that. Okay, I'm gonna check some of your guys' chats. Thank you, Jess, for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, Cedric says IQ isn't personality, it's a proxy for general intelligence. Exactly. And I think that some people just like to think that thinkers are smarter, and so that's why I mentioned that. And so, Cedric, it's funny, I just responded to you because I was about to get to your assumption. I don't know what to say that I assume about you. I suppose I assume that you don't intentionally tell falsehoods. I assume that when you say what you think you are saying what you believe, this is very true. Please don't be mad at me, but I don't think you can see and understand the world as I do. I assume that you can't stand the idea of someone believing themselves to be worthless. Yes, I agree with that. I assume that I can't change your mind or your life by what I say. Um, I'm always gonna read what you say, but it's gonna have to still like be in the pot of other things that I believe. I assume that you would like to see people have free, or in other words, tax fund college. Um, I don't really know about free, that word. I think that we as the people should invest in quality education, and that it should be accessible to all, not based on your class. I don't think that we should give it away. I just want fair access to education. I also assume that there's much more to know about you than even those closest to you. That is very true. Very, very true. Um, yeah, I don't intentionally tell falsehoods. I think that there are multiple interpretations of the truth. And as we know with personality types, there are 16 different ways to approach how our brains are even processing that. So perhaps, hopefully if you disagree with me, you can take what I say with a grain of salt. I could take what you say with a grain of salt. And at the end of the day, it's like hopefully we can come to a better conclusion than one that we had before. That's sort of my intention here. Honey Bliss Clothing says, I assume that you're a big dog lover, which is absolutely true. I'm glad that I got pegged as being a dog person because I definitely am. And yeah, and she also asked, unrelated note, what would you type Ariana Grande? I believe that Ariana is a ISFP. Wait, gosh, it's Ariana, isn't it? Sorry, I'm the worst. Oh my gosh, and Emily Ray also says, I assume that you're a dog person. I'm so glad that people know I'm a dog person. That's very true. Austin says, I assume that you're the kindest and nicest person ever. You are able to understand people and you aren't afraid to go after what you want. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Austin, so much. I'm not the nicest and kindest person ever, but I try and be the best version of myself. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try and breeze through these. I assume that you like period pieces or nostalgic TV and movies. No, I actually don't like those at all, really. And then also that you're health conscious. No, not really. Um, I did give up meat and I eat mostly vegan because from some of the research that I've seen, and it seems to be the diet that makes sense for humans. Um, I remember being confused by this even like when I took anthropology class and I was having to look at all the different types of teeth, and I was like, "You mean to tell me that our teeth that we're carnivores or that we're omnivore like our teeth does not look like them?" Like I've always been confused by that, and there's like lots of evidence to show that like the meat and dairy companies are sort of like cherry picking studies and like funding studies, and so I think that the vegan diet is the most ethical and the best for you, and so I have slowly been making my way toward that, um, just because I think that it's correct. But I've never really health has never been a huge role in what I do. Um, David says, "I assume that you don't care what others think about you on a personal level, but what others you want to know what others think because you find it interesting and useful." That is so, 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 so true. Like for me, personal validation, if my family and my significant other, my best friends like me on a personal level, like that is more than enough. I really don't care if any of you guys really like me. I mean, I really just want to have a discussion and be better people. And I do find it interesting. I mean, I would love it if you guys like me, but even if you don't, that's fine. Um, yeah. So yeah, that was accurate, David. Heather says, "I spend a large portion of my life actively avoiding making assumptions and criticizing people who do make assumptions." Very true. Even if it's supposed to be a fun game, I'm gonna be a wet blanket and choose to not participate. I get that for sure. Um, and then Bronca said, "You are impatient. Saying no to people makes you feel bad, so you tend not to say no, although you have valid reasons to do so." That's very true. Okay, you struggle or you connect easily with people on a surface level, but you struggle to find deep connection. That's very true. And I would feel like a lot of ENFJs would relate because we have the FE to be able to smooth over like a good conversation with someone. But if they don't have that sort of NI understanding that we have, then we aren't going to share our inner world because our inner world is NI. And if you don't really understand that, then we're not going to take the time to really share that with you. Um, it could be very, very alienating, as I've said before, because it's like constantly searching for someone to want to dig beneath the surface and maybe maybe want to share that, but it could really suck to be misunderstood like that. So, yeah. Hey, Denzel. Um, all right. I'm just sort of checking this out. So, Boss said, "And the most untasty diet about veganism." I have a couple thoughts on that. Um, Something that I realized when I gave up meat is that one of the main reasons that meat even tastes good is because of the seasoning. And then I realized that you can put that seasoning on anything. And I think that a lot of the food that's like we think of as really good that is meat is just because it's so accessible. Like McDonald's, awesome, but like it's just because it's McDonald. I mean, I don't know. Like it's not like necessarily the meat itself that's so good. At least for me, I haven't really missed meat at all. The reason why I'm not vegan is because I love ranch and it's so hard to get vegan ranch and it's even harder to find vegan ranch that tastes good. Um yeah, and like Jess said there's no way I could be vegan. I use so many leather products. Yeah, that's another thing, like, for me, I watch a lot of vegan, like, YouTubers and stuff like that, and I'm interested in it, and I, like, wanna support the movement, but I, like maybe this is an FE thing, I mean, I've hesitated to really talk about it because I never wanna seem like one of those people that's, you know, um I don't wanna make people feel like I'm judging them or anything, even though I have an opinion about it, and I mean, some of my friends will be like, "Oh, you're, like, vegan," or whatever, because all of the food that I purchase in my fridge is vegan. All the food that I cook is vegan. Um, but when I go out to eat, I eat vegetarian, because there's not that many options. But yeah, I mean, even like what Jess was saying about like all the leather products and stuff, that's like really hard. And so for me, the rule that I'm gonna try and go with for life is just like to get secondhand leather personally. Um, because if you get secondhand leather, I think that it's more ethical because it's not actually directly funding it's not directly funding them who might be harming animals. It is just taking away something that was going to be thrown away anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, that's just what I believe is best. Um, Robert, thank you so much for the comment about I'm glad you enjoyed my ENFP video. Yeah, Mike, I actually know a couple conservative ENFJs. Um, I do think that a lot of them are liberal, but it's weird. ENFJs, we get very passionate about stuff because the ENFJ conservatives I know are very religious. Um, and I mean, a lot of conservatives might be more likely to be religious, but the ENFJ conservatives I know, they aren't hypocritical in their religion. They like just really, really are religious, you know? Um, I don't know. Just something I noticed. ENFJ liberals might also be religious or might also consider themselves spiritual in another way, or perhaps they just have other things that they are passionate about. But it's like we always got to be passionate about, something, right? Yeah, Mike, you said I saw a statistic that says ENFJs are the most religious type. Um, I mean, I think that the parables of the Bible, like Jesus talking about like love and stuff, a lot of that sort of basic like how you should treat people stuff, I think is very intuitive for an ENFJ to understand, so it's easy to catch on. But that doesn't mean, I don't know. I'd be interested in that. Thank you, John, for the compliment. And, I've been talking long enough. I think that I need to go to sleep. I have talked about some assumptions that people have about me. Hopefully, it was interesting and that you enjoyed it. Yeah, Austin says, as an INFJ, I get biblical concepts in seconds. Yeah, absolutely. And I yeah, I mean, like, love your neighbor. Duh. Like, I think it's one of those things where wherever an ENFJ is on a political spectrum, they are probably going to be, like, really thinking that what they're doing is helping people and that it's right for people and that they're being loving, um, no matter what. And I found that I have an old friend, an ENFJ that we disagree with pretty much everything politically, but she doesn't bother me at all because I just see her as a passionate person who is doing her best. It doesn't really bother me because she's not really harming anyone aside from the fact that we have ideas. Um, Other people that I disagree with, I would find more harmful. I mean, even if I find her ideas harmful, and I do, like I really do, just I don't know, like maybe just the fact that she's an ENFJ doesn't bother or I see where she's coming from and it doesn't bother me. But yeah, and thank you, Mike. I would like to do live streams like this more often. It is fun for me. It's just hard for me. I think I like to sort of have a concept in mind before I start the video, and maybe I'll do just more like Q&A sort of stuff if you guys would be interested, or if you have any other ideas you'd like to see from me. Yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day or night. You know, a lot of you guys should probably be going to bed soon. So yeah, take care of your SI, like take care of that sensory side.